battle they will sing about for ages. This is not the night we fall!
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel released a brand new Marvel Zombies trailer, and Spider-Man is wielding Stormbreaker. Spider-Man should have gone for the head. They're basically giving him the Thor Avengers Infinity War twist, that scene at the end of the movie where he threw Stormbreaker with both hands into Thanos, landed in his chest, but did not kill him. Now, the reason why it didn't kill him is different during this. It's not because of the Infinity Gauntlet or anything like that. It's because he's a zombie. He's already dead. But the big payoff, Thor should have gone for the head, which they used during Avengers Endgame as part of his redemption, also works again for this, because this is how you actually kill zombies in the Marvel Universe, in the MCU. You go for the head each time. It's why you see Spider-Man ripping all their heads during their massive big battle in the other trailer footage. My assumption is that this scene with zombie Thanos actually happens earlier in the episodes, and the big battle scene is like their big final battle. There's a lot going on during here, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. I will be doing episode videos when they do release these, which is coming very soon. Originally, Marvel was going to release this as a theatrical movie, but it sounded like they had Spider-Man rights issues. That's the big reason, is because Sony has rights to Spider-Man in the movies, and they're releasing the animated Spider-Verse movies right now, so they probably didn't want Marvel turning around and releasing a Spider-Man related movie. Like, please don't use Spider-Man in your thing, and they really wanted to use Spider-Man during this.
We've got some familiar faces on set.
Oh, me, man.
All because, if it wasn't clear, zombie Thanos here with Spider-Man, T'Challa Black Panther, and the head of Ant-Man wearing Doctor Strange's cloak of levitation are all canon to the What If episode of Marvel Zombies, so it's meant to be the same universe. This basically just tells you what happens after that zombie Thanos post-credit scene where he shows up in Wakanda as a zombie with the Infinity Gauntlet to get the Mind Stone, which Spider-Man was bringing to Wakanda. One of the key things to note, too, is the reason why he can wield Stormbreaker is because there is no worthiness enchantment on it, even though Spider-Man, yes, technically is worthy. Like, of all the MCU characters who could potentially wield Thor's hammer because they're worthy, Spider-Man is right there next to Captain America, being just as worthy as him. But the big qualifier there is that Spider-Man, during the events of Avengers Endgame, for instance, the reason why he couldn't wield Thor's hammer during that is because he didn't believe that he was worthy at the time. Part of the way that the enchantment on Thor's hammer works is that you have to believe yourself worthy and actually be worthy. If you remember in the comics, they actually dug into this when Thor lost his hammer. The whole idea is that he just believed himself to not be worthy. Nick Fury in the comics basically whispered in his ear, Gore was right, and he stopped believing that he was worthy to wield the hammer, so the enchantment on it recognized him as not being worthy. So if you want to see Spider-Man wield Thor's hammer in live action, MCU, or some other movie, he'd have to believe himself worthy, which I think we're actually building up to in this new Spider-Man trilogy. There is a bit of a qualifier with wielding Stormbreaker, though. Thor actually lets on the idea that if you're not powerful enough, it could potentially melt your brain, like the weapon is so powerful that only a certain class of people could actually wield it. If it wasn't totally clear, Spider-Man is technically way more powerful, way stronger than Captain America. Captain America just happens to be a way more experienced fighter. If they both unleashed on each other and went 100%, Captain America would have zero chance against him. One of the other reasons why they're not wielding Thor's hammer during these scenes here is because in this timeline, you remember that Hela has already broken Thor's hammer and it hasn't been repaired yet. But even though you don't actually see him in this scene, Thor has come to Wakanda. That's why Stormbreaker is in Wakanda and Spider-Man can actually wield it. They actually do a cool title treatment for the TVMA rating to the Marvel Animation logo at the beginning of the trailer here, as they start with the scene of the Shang-Chi movie with he and Katie learning that everybody's been turned. So remember, this is meant to take place close to the events of Avengers Infinity War in the original MCU. We actually see both Shang-Chi and Katie sharing the 10 Rings of Power later in the earlier trailers, so I don't know if they're going to explain that he gets the 10 rings in a slightly different way during this timeline because of what goes down with the Marvel zombies. But I think all these scenes of Shang-Chi and Katie here, where people are turning into zombies all around them, is happening before the events of the Shang-Chi movie, just because that's meant to take place after the events of Avengers Infinity War. You remember they live in San Francisco, also where all the other Ant-Man characters live too. There are a couple Ant-Man characters that actually show up during this, like Ghost is a zombie and goes after all the Black Widows. Wasp is also a zombie because she was turned into a zombie at the end of the Marvel Zombies What If episode. All these scenes of the heroes in this underground base seem like they're from this giant final battle that they fight in the last episode. Like, it seems like they barricaded themselves in this facility and all the armies of the zombies forming around them. Seems like they're going for the Game of Thrones Long Night comp with the White Walkers army. I guess that would make zombie Scarlet Witch the Night King in this case. She's actually meant to be leading their army, even though Okoye seems like she's leading the army during all this. She's meant to be Scarlet Witch's second in command. Going left to right, not sure who this character on the far left is next to Mohawk here, but because we do see zombie Captain Marvel later in the trailer, this is now confirmed to not be Captain Marvel with the Mohawk, but it does look like it's going for Captain Marvel vibes with the Mohawk. I'm not totally sure which character this is though. Most of the non-zombie characters are meant to be brand new Marvel Phase 4, Marvel Phase 5 characters. If you hadn't noticed that from the trailer, pretty much all the characters from pre-Avengers Infinity War, like all the original Avengers, all the other big characters like the Wakanda characters, for the most part, have already been turned into zombies. So that's part of the idea, is that like all the brand new characters have to hold out against all the old, super powerful characters.
Whoa, that's how you do that then.
Wow.
That's why one of the taglines in the trailer they're using is, "Who will save us from our heroes?" Then we see Shang-Chi, Red Guardian, the Blade version of Moon Knight. Maybe we'll call him Blade Knight. Not really sure exactly what they're calling him on the show. Yelena in the background there, Miss Marvel in front, then Death Dealer, Katie, Jimmy Woo, and I'm not sure who this is on the far right either. Maybe another new character, or some backup character from one of the Marvel Phase 4, Marvel Phase 5 movies. We get much longer scenes of zombie Thanos here using the Infinity Gauntlet. This time in Wakanda, after he's shown up, he's using the Reality Stone to raise a whole bunch of dead bodies. This actually seems like more of a comp to the Game of Thrones Hardhome episode at the very end where the Night King just raises up all the people that they just killed. We get another scene of zombie Okoye saying no one is safe, and there's a lot of meta going on here too, because Robert Kirkman, who did The Walking Dead, Denai Guerrera, who played Michonne, also on The Walking Dead. Marvel zombies have a certain level of cognition that the walkers on Walking Dead do not have, or other zombies do not have. There have been a lot of different takes on the zombie genre. Sometimes they're smarter, sometimes they're faster, sometimes they're slower, sometimes they're dumber. Marvel zombies have most of their cognition before, and they can use all their powers from before they were turned. In the original Marvel Zombies story, a bunch of them consume Galactus. It's meant to be a huge ironic twist. The Devourer of Worlds himself devoured by Marvel Zombies, which also gives them the power cosmic, so the zombies get the power cosmic and turn into a bunch of Galactus clones. Pretty sure we're not going to see Galactus show up during this because they had to complete all the episodes when the Fantastic Four movie had not come out yet. So the idea is that there were a lot of things they couldn't use. That's why you don't see a bunch of Fantastic Four characters or probably a bunch of X-Men characters in this either. There's a scene of Ghost coming after all of Yelena and her Black Widows. Some of these actually appeared during the events of the Black Widow movie. There's that very long night coded scene, Game of Thrones style, with them getting ready to go for this facility that they've all hunkered down in. This is probably meant to be humanity's last stronghold, like everybody that's left is in this one facility. Red Guardian just seems jazzed up to go out in style, like very Klingon of him. Today is a good day to die. You also notice that Melina is part of this too. The character with the glowing eyes here turning around in frame is actually Zombie Icarus. That's right, they're bringing some of the Eternals characters back. That doesn't mean they're coming back in the live-action movies anytime soon. They've kind of effectively been canceled in the background, not expecting to see a whole lot of Eternals during Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. Probably about as close as we've gotten to their characters coming back is them just addressing the dead Celestial in the Indian Ocean during Captain America Brave New World for all the adamantium subplot. Maybe, if we're lucky, we'll see some Celestials stuff invoked during Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars because they're such a big deal on a cosmic scale.
And I will return for
judgment.
Then we actually see Zombie Captain Marvel with her mohawk, Zombie Wasp, because remember, Wasp had turned into a zombie at the end of the original Marvel Zombies What If episode. Namor looks like he's returned to Talocan, and he's already been turned into a zombie. Then the army of Marvel zombie White Walkers attack the Starks, the MCU characters. Red Guardian yelling, "This is not the night we fall," also feels like a long night comp. Like, it feels like they watched Game of Thrones and are like, why don't we do our version of this episode? We get that same scene of Blade Moon Knight attacking Ghost, and eventually winds up killing her, as we saw in the other trailer footage. Probably about all we're gonna see from the Mahershala Ali version of Blade before Marvel Phase 7. They've delayed the Blade movie indefinitely. Maybe it's been canceled quietly behind the scenes, but Kevin Feige insists that they're still trying to work on it. So maybe, I wouldn't hold your breath, but maybe we'll see a Blade movie at some point. Then of course they're gonna end the trailer with Spider-Man wielding Stormbreaker against zombie Thanos. Real question though is, will somebody say, "You should have gone for the head"? Like, will they actually go for that during the actual episode? One of the interesting things though is that you don't actually see zombie Thanos in their big final battle at that facility, so maybe they're actually able to kill him at some point during this zombie Thanos episode. Everybody post all your theories on which surprise cameos are going to show up during the episodes, because there's a lot that they don't show us during these trailers. There's a bunch of stuff coming up. We're in the middle of Alien Earth episodes, Peacemaker Season 2 episodes, we have Gen V Season 2 episodes starting real soon, and then obviously these Marvel Zombies episodes. So of course I will try to do videos for everything as quickly as possible. Marvel just inadvertently dropped a first look at Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom in Avengers Doomsday. I just did a huge video on the teaser. Click here for that, and click here for my other Marvel Zombies trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.